All right, those are excerpts from our conversation yesterday during the part one of the distribution of palliatives to states. We do apologize for the abrupt interruption to the excerpts there. It was compiled by Tokwe Alabi, and we have all our guests ready. Let me begin the introductions right here from the studio. And we have Mrs. Miriam Uwais, who's a legal practitioner and social economic rights activist. She joins us live here in the studio. Thank you very much, madam, for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
We also have joining us His Excellency Executive Governor of Nasarawa State, Engineer Abdullahi Sule. He's joining us via Zoom all the way from Lafia. Your Excellency, good to have you with us again on Good Morning.
Good to see you again. Thank you very much. Can you ask one of the guests, I think Dr. Emolumba, maybe to switch off his mic? Otherwise, I'm hearing a lot of different sounds, and I can see it is from him. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Excellency. Thank you for that information. We'll do so presently.
All right. And just as well, Claire, let's get to Owerri. That's the Imo State capital, where Declan Melumba, who is the Imo State Commissioner for Information, is also joining us via Zoom. Declan, I'm sure you heard what His Excellency, the Governor of Nasarawa, indicated. It looks like there is a lot of noise filtration into your microphone. So if you could sort that out, that would just be great. But would like to welcome you to the conversation this morning.
Thank you very much. I'm very glad to be here.
Oh, okay. And also part of today's conversation from our Maiduguri Network Center is Professor Ibrahim Umara. He's a professor of political science at the University of Maiduguri. Professor Umara, we're glad to have you this morning. So we will sort you out. At least we can see, we can. Professor Umara. And then what you saw earlier was actually the Chief Press Secretary to the Governor of Kwara State, joining us via Zoom, Rafiu Ajakaye. Rafiu Ajakaye, we're glad to have you this morning.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right, let's start our conversation with His Excellency Governor of Nasarawa State, Engineer Abdullahi Sule. Your Excellency, once again, good to have you with us, and welcome back from Kigali. So I just like to start from Kigali because all the governors, went there for a retreat. And one thing that caught my attention was the part of rethinking leadership system. I would like you briefly, just before we delve into the crux of our conversation, to talk us through some of the takeaways from that event and probably how it relates to the matter we have at hand, effective and equitable distribution of palliatives to states.
Thank you very much, my sister, and I'm happy that you asked me about that because there have been a lot of commentaries recently because people did not really understand what happened at the Kigali. The Kigali event was actually a United Nations Development Partner, UNDP event. It was not Nigerian Governors Forum event, but the UNDP couldn't have done it without consultations with the Nigerian Governors Forum. And it was meant purely for the first-time governors to come and learn about leadership. And the United Nations decided that they will take it to a country where at least there is some semblance of leadership working. And that is Rwanda. And nobody can really argue with that. Now, secondly, there have been a lot of comments in the social media about spending. Now, take me, for instance, in Nasarawa State. When I was going, I received some DTA, hotel accommodation, this and that. When I went, the United Nations had paid everything 100%. So when I came back, I returned the money to the state government 100%, what I received, because we didn't spend anything. The UN decided to do that. Now, coming back to what we have learned, There is so much to learn from Rwanda, so much. As a matter of fact, at the last day we had, the president, President Kagame, spent 4 hours with us, with the governors, and it's purely first-time governors. Every one of them went, with the exception, I think maybe of Cross River that sent his deputy, and maybe Taraba that sent his deputy. Every other first-time governor was there. Now, for the second-time governors, only 3 of us were invited. The governor of Lagos, myself, and the governor of Oyo were the only ones who were there. And that is the whole idea, maybe to be able to share our own experiences with them. But it was so much to learn. Rwanda is working. Rwanda is truly a pride of Africa. We have a leader who has been able to move the country from genocide to what it is today. When it comes to ICT, let me give you one example and I will close with that. We had a 27-year-old little girl who was carrying us around. It's a country of young people. It's all young people who are driving everything. So a 27-year-old was carrying all the governors in a vehicle, a bus. And then I asked her, I say, Madam, are you a Tutsi or you are a Hutu? And she looked at me and said, Your Excellency, sir, in Rwanda today, we don't have Tutsis, we don't have Hutus. We are all Rwandans. There is nothing more than that. And I was just blown away with this. And I said, then what happened to the languages? She said, we have always spoken only one language. And that's what it is. So today, there is no more. Some of us don't even know anything about Hutu. Some of us don't know anything about Tutsi. We are just one people. And we are all driving towards development and unity of Rwanda. That thing stuck really in my mind. And I was given my thank you speech to the president. I say, Mr. President, I'm hoping that one day Nigeria also will be like this, where we will not be talking of Yoruba, Fulani, Hausa, Igon, Mada, and the rest of that. We'll just be talking of Nigerians, that we are all proud Nigerians. That is one message we have learned. Apart from the cleanliness of the city, one of the cleanest that I have ever seen, and I have traveled a lot worldwide. And this is one of the cleanest places that I have seen, Kigali. So everything working. People, rule and order working, law and order working in that country, and that's what it is. So I think our first-time governors, including some of us, the so-called second-time governors, have learned so much from there. The prayer is that we'll be able to practice what we have learned. Thank you very much.
Your Excellency, thank you for the information. I think that will be, a topic for more conversations some other day on Good Morning Nigeria. But the main issue now is palliatives distribution to states, and there have been stories from different quarters, concerning how states are handling the palliatives. Some states have received, some have not. Give us a picture of what the situation is in your state. Have you received yours? Has distribution started, and how is it going?
Palliative ones, let me explain one thing, because a lot of people really don't have the true picture of what happened on these palliatives. Indeed, the president, the federal government, the governors, and everybody is concerned about the hardship that had been created as a result of this removal of subsidy. Everybody is worried. Everybody is concerned. And so collectively, government sat down and said, what do we do about it? So, and the federal government now came up with this idea, that, okay, number one, we can, if you remember, before the president, the former president left, there was talk about 8,000 naira to a family over this, all those kind of things. And the money was going to be borrowed anyway, and that is part of what was being said. So today, we have seen a lot of savings. We have seen reduction so the federal government came up with the program that there is going to be 5 billion naira that will be given to every state uniformly. But the 5 billion naira was not going to be all cash. It's going to be differently. Number one, every state had received 2 billion so far. Another 2 billion will come. Another 1 billion will come in form of grants. So the grants is going to be, everybody will take. Now, how did the federal government come up with the 4 billion in cash? It was supposed to be 100,000 bags of rice, that is 50 kg bags, at 40,000 naira per bag. And that's how the calculation was made. And so 2 billion was paid, 2 billion yet to come. So many states are even waiting for the remaining 2 billion to commence. Now, in addition to that, the CBN had given 5 trucks of rice. That's 3,050 kg bags to every state so far. So for us in Nasarawa, let me be specific now. You asked me, how are we treating it in Nasarawa State? So what we did in Nasarawa, we said we are not going to wait for the next 2 billion to come before we commence. And we are not going to wait until we pick the 1 billion naira worth of grain from CBN before we commence. So we took those 50 kg bags, that's the 3,000 bags, and now we bagged them into 7.5 kg. So it will be able to go around before we buy additional rice. And that's what we took. So when we took that, we now went to every senatorial zone. I participated in the one of Lafia. My deputy, while I was in Kigali, actually did the one of Akwanga, as well as the one of Kefi. And so we took 3,000 of those 7 kg bags and distributed them to every one of these local government areas. Now, we have bought some on our own, even before the commencement of this program, and we are sharing those. Now, you will see in the social media all over that some people are saying you are given less than 7,000 kg, this and that. Then that is the typical Nigerian people, because somebody will take about 3 or 4 of that, he will lie and take more, and then go back and start giving to his neighborhood a little bit of this. So we are being wicked to ourselves. But as far as the government is concerned, what the government did was to share that 7 kg bags. And we have done that. We distributed that, and I was there. And we did that. In addition to that, the government on its own decided to even buy some Indomie, as well as maybe some other items to share, so that we are not just sharing rice, we are also sharing some other item. But that is outside the 5 billion. But as far as 5 billion is concerned, 4 billion will come in cash, 1 billion is going to come in grain. Now, is it free money coming to the states? Other people, again, are arguing they don't understand that. It is not free money from the federal government. Federal government is going to pay out of that total amount of the 4 billion, federal government is going to pay 2 billion and 80 million naira, which is 52%. The states are going to contribute 1.92 billion. So it's a loan. But that of the state will be deducted from ISPO. So it's not also free money that other people are thinking that it's free money coming to the states. So these are the issues, and that is exactly what is happening. So the 1 billion naira worth of grain has not yet been collected. The 2 billion naira that was supposed to come to make out the 4 billion has not yet come. So some states are still waiting until that comes. Some states like Nasarawa don't want to wait because we have a lot of people who are in hardship. So we can't wait. So whatever we receive, we keep sharing. Whatever we receive, we keep sharing. So that is exactly what is happening.
Well, thank you very much, Governor Sule, for the explanation that you have just provided. But there are still, to me, a few gray areas, and I would like you to kindly clarify. Concerns have also been raised, or rather, questions have been asked to say if we are making savings from the removal of fuel subsidy, why go again to borrow unless the money was already in the kitty, borrowing for plain consumption? Since the states are going to repay this money, as you have also now indicated, why borrow? States and local governments are already making more money on account of the savings from fuel subsidy. That's one. Second point, I'm not quite clear. We're waiting for grains. 2 billion came, but 2 billion, is it for cash transfers to the vulnerable and the needy, or 2 billion to utilize for some purpose? Because yesterday when we started the conversation, one state, Ebonyi, let me be specific, said they had received 3,000 bags of rice. And Ebonyi is a leading producer of rice in the country. And then you say we are still waiting for another 1 billion to come for grains. What kind of grains are we looking at? So could you clarify all of these points?
No, I think there are issues. Also, the reason why, like right now, most of the states are actually trying to buy all this rice. Even for the 2 billion, you can hardly find rice for the 2 billion that we're asking. And I'm telling you that because in Nasarawa State, we have Olam, one of the biggest producers of rice. And when we ask them, Olam, we want to buy rice for 2 billion naira, there is no rice for 2 billion naira because they don't have. They are also lacking in paddy, so they don't have sufficient amount of rice. I will not be surprised if you say states like Ebonyi, because it's also another rice producing state, or states like Kebbi or Jigawa were able to receive So that is again another option. And today, even if you are buying the rice, you are not getting it for 40,000, by the way, because for us that have even a company like that, we bought it around 42,000, every bag. But that is okay. That is not the problem. But you mentioned one very important point. The important point is that since the removal of this subsidy, the FAC allocation of every state has increased. Yes. And because of that, states on their own, with or without 5 billion naira coming, should be able to do something to cushion the effect of the subsidy. Yes. And what we are doing in Nasarawa State, we said, all right, we are also going to look at the workers. Instead of giving workers 10,000 naira like other states did, and then they will not even have a bag of rice with the 10,000. Can we do something that is sustainable? Can we maybe look at the salary of workers and see what we can do? In Nasarawa also, we have another program that we have been doing for the past 4 years. And that program is purely giving 5,000 naira to the vulnerable. And this every month we have been doing it, similar to what they do at the social program, the humanitarian. We are just copying from the federal government. And we selected, we said, all right, now, can we increase the number of people, the vulnerable that we are given? Instead of what we are given now, can we triple it? Because now we are receiving more resources. Yes, these are all some of the options that we are looking. Can we increase the number of fertilizer we are given at a more reduced price than what we have been doing in the past? Yes, we said that. And where is that money coming from? From the reduced, from the increased FAC allocation. Because every state is receiving an increase in the FAC allocation. Today, Nasarawa State we are receiving almost 30 to 40% more than what we used to receive. So, and that is what we intend to do with the money. Apart from development, structural development, this and that, we have to cushion the effect of that, through some of this program that I have seen, to the workers, to the farmers, to healthcare and to other issues. So that's exactly the way we are looking at it.
Excellency, just a last question before we escalate the conversation to our other guests. And this matter came up yesterday. I think one of either the presenters or the guests raised it. It's about wants. Is rice a priority need for the people of Nasarawa State at this moment?
Sorry. The Honorable Emelume or Lemulumbu is still having his mic on. So I'm still having some problems hearing you. That's why you see me, straining to hear you. I couldn't hear you very well. Yeah, go ahead. What did you say again?
Yes, sorry about that interference. I'm sure our engineers are trying to sort that out. I'm just wondering, is rice the priority food item for the people of Nasarawa State?
If the rice is the only item for the people of Nasarawa State?
Is it a priority? Is it what the people of Nasarawa State want now?
Yeah, what we gave them, as we mentioned, is rice. But apart from rice, we have given some other items. But when we are not given to people of APC or PDP or Abuja or this. We are given to entire people of Nasarawa State who are affected by this effect. And when I say the entire people of Nasarawa State, all those who reside in Nasarawa State, irrespective of whether they are indigenous, not indigenous, this and that, that's what we have been doing. And you can see that we are given together with other items, and I can see that you are showing it already on that. So that's what we are doing. And that's a 7.5 kg bag together with spaghetti and oil. So, but this is something that will continue, that we are trying to do. Today, as I'm talking to you, we have over 20,000 bags of that 7.5 kg. And I intend to go myself to most of the local government areas to be able to distribute that. At the end of the day, we want to extend that, to the wards. But that is, it's not just going to be rice. We will include other items, and it doesn't have to come from the 4 billion. As I said, we have increased FAC allocation, so we can use it from other sources. We can spend from other sources, yes.
Okay, we appreciate you, Governor Sule, for the responses you've provided. We have other guests on the program, and so we'll just go over to them to also hear what is happening in their locations. Straight away to Owerri, where Declan Emelumba, the Commissioner for Information in Imo State, was earlier introduced. Mr. Emelumba, tell us something. What's going on in Imo with regard to the distribution of the palliatives? And more particularly, what are the criteria for distribution? And in responding to that question, let me throw in what we also raised yesterday, namely, there was an earlier squabble by the governors, and when the National Economic Council met and said, look, the social register that was used in the past had integrity issues. And Governor Soludo and a few other brother governors were then nominated to work out new modalities. So what register are you using for the distribution of the palliatives, if you have started, and what criteria are you also deploying?
Thank you for the questions. Let me say that we have started, definitely, and we have a very well mapped out criteria. We developed a template that is comprehensive and exhaustive. We are using different strata of the society for the distribution. For it, we started with autonomous communities in the state. We have 667 autonomous communities. Because His Excellency, the Governor, the Civil Senator, said we must ensure that the thing gets to the real people, to the grassroots. So we started with autonomous communities, and we have 607 autonomous communities, as I said. Now, we are giving 20 bags to each autonomous community. So that, and the idea is that in each autonomous community, because we also have criteria for civil servants, we have for teachers, we have for pensioners, we have for students, we have for boards and commissions.
Well, it looks like there is a freeze there. Declan, if you are back, we can take you, but it looks like your connection has frozen. So,
members and some communities. Hello?
Hear you again.
Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
We can hear you. We can see you, and we can also hear you.
All right. So what I'm saying is that the one that has gone to the communities, we insist that you give to only those who are resident there, because the civil servants and the pensioners and other people have been taken care of. And we do it in such a manner that the traditional ruler, the town union president, the councillor in that community, and the other government appointees there, including the security agencies, police, SS, will supervise the distribution, so that we ensure that the way it has been outlined for distribution, that is the way it will be distributed.
All right, I think we'll just need to put you on hold for the moment, and then hopefully when we come back to you, the connection would have been restored. But let's bring in Rafiu Ajakaye, who is the Chief Press Secretary to the Governor of Kwara State. He's also joining us via Zoom. Hopefully his connection will be much better. Mr. Ajakaye, if I can see you on Zoom. Yes, of course, there you are. Also talk to us. Kwara State is one of the states, mentioned by some of the daily newspapers as having also started distribution of the palliatives, and I think mention was also made of the number of truckloads of rice that you have received. Can you talk to us about the modalities for your distribution?
Thank you for having me. In Kwara State, like in some other states, we have received 5 truckloads of 50 kg rice. And what we have done is to handle it in 2 manners. I also need to clarify that we did not receive these 5 truckloads at once. We received 2 truckloads initially, which were rebagged in 10 kg and distributed through the local government authorities and local stakeholders. And then we have received the balance of 3 truckloads, which have also been distributed through the 24 state constituency, that is the State House of Assembly members. And that has been done. What the governor has said clearly is that this rise is not meant for members of any specific political party. It is meant for every member of the community, particularly those who have been identified as vulnerable people, which is why the government representatives are liaising with CBOs, traditional institutions, religious bodies to ensure that what is being shared actually gets to the people who are most needy of it. Now, that is that about distributing the first tranche of rights we received from the federal government. But I must mention that even before the rise from federal government came, Kwara State on its own has rolled out several palliative measures, multi-sectorally, to ensure that every segment of our society gets to enjoy palliatives from the government. For instance, at the level of the civil servant, Kwara State happened to be the first state in the country that reduced the number of working days from 5 to 3, so that we can support our civil servant to go to work. For instance, if they were spending 20,000 on transportation in a month, and you are now reducing their working days from 5 to 3, what that means is that you are going to give them some kind of relief. On top of that, the government has also given them 10,000 naira transport support monthly. And this is not restricted to just the civil servant. The governor has also extended it to pensioners. Apart from that, teachers have also had their promotions cash backed. The last time Kwara State had step-ins for teachers at the SUBEB level, that's the basic education, was in 2016. His Excellency has graciously restored steps back to SUBEB teachers. And what that means is that they now have more money in their pocket. The government has also rolled out palliatives to students by ensuring that they have, particularly those in the metropolis, they have free bus ride every day. That this started since June. That's why Kwara State had since started all of these things. Apart from that, the government has also reached out to petty traders and vulnerable people through its social register, which exists with the Kwara State Social Investment Program, a program that actually started way back in 2020. So a lot of things are being done at the level of the state government. And then when we received the truckloads, 5 truckloads of rice in Kwara State, we have also distributed them accordingly, just like the visuals you are showing indicated. Now, for the 5 billion naira that the federal government has just given to the state government, just like His Excellency, the governor of Nasarawa mentioned, Kwara State has received 2 billion naira, which is the first tranche, and we have since ordered for purchase of rice. As I speak to you now, those rice are being rebagged to 10 kg, and to distribute that rice, His Excellency set up a non-partisan committee, which is headed by the Commissioner of Police in Kwara State. She is supported by His Royal Highness, the Emir of Shunga. They are supported by several members of the community who are people of proven integrity. Now, what the government is trying to do is to ensure that the people who are in charge of it, of this palliative, truly distribute it in a non-partisan manner, so that there will not be noise about government distributing rice to members of their own political party. And that layer of palliative, the distribution of that layer of palliative, should begin tomorrow, God willing.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Ajakaye, for the detailed explanation that you have provided. We really appreciate that, except to also throw in that some persons probably will disagree with you when you said that reducing the number of days that civil servants go to work would amount to palliatives. If you're working 5 days a week, you say work 3 days a week, how then do you account for the diminished productivity? An economy like ours they might say needs to work 24 hours, if not 7 days a week. Once again, Mr. Jakaye, thank you very much for the points that you have clarified for our viewers. Now, back to the studios, Mrs. Miriam Uwais, who of course gave you the opportunity of listening to the other guests. We still have Professor Umara in our Maiduguri Network Center. You served for many years as special advisor to the former president with specific regard to the social investment program. Look, how do you contextualize what is happening now? Because yesterday, Professor Obasi, our guest on Good Morning Nigeria, raised concerns about the apparent lack of institutionalization. We had conditional cash transfer, the vulnerable and the needy, there were ways that monies got to them. Now, it appears that we are getting back to the same old story we heard about 4 decades ago, scramble for rice wherever you can get it, give rice to people, rice is only carbohydrate, there are all kinds of things. Again, let me just leave the question open-ended. Have we taken advantage of pre-existing schemes? How those pre-existing schemes run, and then what we could then utilize the lessons from the past in dealing with this in a rather seamless manner, rather than looking for rice from wherever corner you can get it.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I've listened very intently to what is going on, and I have mixed feelings in the sense that it's very important for structures to be in place for this kind of eventuality, especially because we have seen things deteriorating worldwide in terms of the economy, in terms of climate change. So many things have unfolded that indicate that it is necessary for our own country to take steps to ensure that the poor and the needy are taken care of adequately. I think this is the reason why the social register in the first place was conjured up or contemplated. And I'd like to make a small, give a small piece of information. The social register didn't actually start with President Muhammadu Buhari. It actually began under President Goodluck Jonathan. When I came in, 8 states had already signed an MOU with the World Bank to begin the social register, and there was already data in place. A gentleman called Mr. Peter Papka was the person that had started this, and he was working in the Ministry of Finance. And when I came in, the World Bank informed me about how meticulous this process was. And so I walked up to him and asked him, he was about to retire, to ask him if he could please continue, even if on contract, so that we could have institutional memory and unfold in other states, because it was then an MOU between the states and World Bank. And the way it is in Nigeria, human capital indices, a lot of things that happen with the vulnerable, how to improve it, the federal government has limitations because people, the vulnerable, primary healthcare, primary education, all of those issues are squarely within the mandate of the states. So the federal government can only coordinate. In the same sense with the palliatives, the state can coordinate, but there have to be very robust mechanisms for monitoring, for ensuring that the right people get it. There has to be an assessment process. I would have thought that the social register, which of course needs to be updated again and again, would provide at least some guidance as to who the vulnerable is, because it was not conjured up. Yes, we did not sit down every time with the governors, as a process was set in place that ensured that the people in the community were the ones that actually identified the poor people. They were the ones that sat down in focus group discussions. Enumerators were trained within the states in the ministries of planning to go in and engage, sensitize, and get these people to understand what it was about, the paradigms for poverty in the context of the state, and then the issues in the, I mean, what you can find in the social register, I think is very important. We have levels of education, we have levels of employment, we have whether they have, I mean, the conditions of their household, do they have water, do they have roofs, you know, the gender components, the size of the household, the ages of the people. So it was, I mean, it's something that at least I know for a fact that 21 states are actually using the social register.
Is it difficult, really, to determine who fell, you know, within the category of vulnerable or poor of the poor? And if the answer, you know, is no, then the social register that, you know, the existing social register, because a lot of, you know, government officials have talked about the integrity of that social register, does it provide a guide?
It is a
for
guide.
Equitable distribution.
Definitely, I feel that it is a guide, but maybe I'm a judge in my own cause. I have seen that we have over 62 million individuals. Every state has its own state register. It's not a national social register in the sense that it is derived by the federal government. It is the states that collate the information and send it off for cleaning at the national, and then there's one register. The problem is, you know, all over the world, poverty, there's a poverty line and everyone below that poverty line. But the truth is, in Nigeria, and as has unfolded, as is changing now, what constitutes poverty differs maybe even from one local government to the other, not to talk of from Nigeria. So we did not have one poverty line. What we did was ask the community, what is poverty to you? And they came up with various variables, you know. The children don't go to school, or they cook with firewood. I witnessed some of these conversations, you know. And the community was, I mean, they did it in focus group discussions so they could be free. And then there was a plenary. And I witnessed in Kano, my state, where somebody stood up and said, no, yeah, it is true that his children don't, this person on the list does not go to, his children don't go to school, but he's not poor by any standards. The children don't go to school because he doesn't believe in formal education. You understand? And eventually the person's name was dropped from the list. In another place, somebody stood up and said, I fall within these variables, but I am stigmatized from the community because 2 of my sons were armed robbers. And so people don't, so it is, none of the enumerators had the authority to remove any name or add any name. It was the community that decided. And then furthermore, they now went, the enumerators went to the houses of those who had been signed off as poor, and they entered the information that was required on a device. And that device had a proxy means testing formula. So when you enter asset, for instance, in one of the communities in Oyo State, one of the chiefs said, I fall within these parameters. Of course, it has to be subjective because you ask people, Chiefs. Right? Yes, I fall within these parameters, you know. But when we got to his household, or our people got to his household, they saw that he had an old Peugeot 504, and it was entered as the asset, whereas many of the people in the community had bicycle, some entered radio, some entered, you know, different things as their assets. It automatically ranked him as one of the richest on the poverty ranking. You understand? And cash transfers were paid to only those on the bottom 6th decile. So he was high. He's on the list, but he will never get cash transfers.
So that register was actually domiciled at the
state level. It is the state people that did it. So we have the structure, we have the assessment, but the assessment also has to do with what to buy, you know, what constitutes, it is very pertinent question you asked, what constitutes, you know, a need for that community. You have to set up distribution teams, you have to set up distribution points, you need to identify the people who will be transparent, robust mechanisms for ensuring that those who have got don't get again. So registration, there's so many things to be done, but that can be done easily at state level, and it would serve maybe if the governors forum, it's just a suggestion, could come up with a template on how to do these things so that at least there's some manner of assessing how ultimately these palliatives have worked, whether they have actually impacted on the community that requires this kind of support.
All right. Thank you very much, Mrs. Uwais. I know you have some other points to get onto in terms of the transfer, or no, not transfer now. That would be transmission. Transmission of the knowledge from what you did previously, knowledge and experience, to the next generation of administrators. That's administrators now. I use it as a broad term. In other words, okay, here we are as a country. We've removed fuel subsidy, and we want to mitigate the impact through the use of palliatives. Those who want to administer the palliatives, where are they starting from point zero, or they're just assuming that nothing went on before?
It's interesting. One of the state governments, somebody quite, very close to the governor called me just before this controversy over the social register started to say, oh, we've got a proposal from somebody that wants to build a register for us. Mrs. Uwais, haven't you done this thing before? I said, it's actually there. I don't doubt that maybe some people need to be weaned off because we need to keep updating the register, but the basics are there. Some people may have died and all of that. I said, ask your governor not to, spend money that is unnecessary on these things. I think, it's the way we do things in this country. The information is there. It's written. I give handover notes. As you may be aware, after 4 years, the entire process moved to the Ministry for Humanitarian. And I have very good reason to believe that that process was not tampered with even then. Of course, there were cash transfers that happened that did not derive from the social register, from the Ministry of Humanitarian. But those cash transfers that continued from the building of the register itself, and the cash transfers from the World Bank and the Abuja loot continued in that transparent manner. And the important thing is to have a lot of monitors, to have people giving you feedback to ensure that this thing is being done right. Because Nigeria is so vast, it's really diverse. A lot of things can happen out there. I would have thought a lot of agricultural incentives would be important because of the way we are an agrarian society. We should be looking at forestry, how to give support on sustainable practices in agriculture, to see how we can get tools, incentives. There's so many things we can be looking at to ensure that the people that really deserve support get support that they can now begin to grow. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Mrs. Uwais. Now, let's go over to Maiduguri, where we earlier introduced Professor Umara. He's of the Department of Political Science at the University of Maiduguri. Prof, once again, we apologize as you see we're going around each of our guests this morning. So just lay the table before you so that you can make your own comments. But I recall hearing in an earlier part of this whole program of mitigating the consequences of fuel subsidy removal that will be dealing also with financial inclusion. Is the distribution of commodities likely to achieve that goal? Why don't you give, some persons have argued, give money to the people through the formal mechanisms that were utilized in the past and let them spend it whichever way they want, particularly in terms of their needs. Or as Mrs. Uwais just mentioned, get the funds expended in a more sustainable way, for instance, agriculture or businesses that individuals are running. Prof, let's hear your take.
I'm happy, but before I go on to that subject matter, the issue should have been an eye-opener to our country and Africa in general. The actual issue of the palliative was brought as a result of the withdrawal of the fuel subsidy. And the situation, the present regime found itself is so tasking because no government can afford to rule within the context of a borrowing regime. And the situation at hand is, one, the Russian-Ukrainian crisis may have impacted on the entire global economy. Not only in Africa, even Europe and America, they are suffering from the fallout of the economic circumstances. Added to that, you have countries like India, the largest producer of the grain, trying to stop the exportation of the non-basmati rice products to the international market, which led to drastic reduction on the supply into the international market that led to the increase in the prices of the commodity. The second and the third largest producers of the crop combined cannot have an output like that of the India, meaning Thailand and Vietnam. So when the regime came into pause, I know not only the incumbent government, but even the two major contenders, such as the Labour Party and the PDP, have already promised to Nigerians that once they creep into corridors of power, they are going to withdraw the subsidy alongside the present regime. So now, the circumstances revolving within that context. One, you have climate change that led to destruction of farmland and the commodities. We are even though lucky that Nigeria is no longer importing, the borders are closed, we are no longer importing food products. But at the same time, most of the agricultural belts are already inundated by floodwaters last year. Added to that, you have inaccessibility. People cannot access their farmland. And as a result of that, it led to gross reduction in the production that is supposed to be taken into market in terms of supply needs for the Nigerian market. So these are within the confine of maybe the difficulties of federal government in supplying what they had promised to the states. Added to that again, to me, instead of abrupt withdrawal of the fuel subsidy, it could have been that, look, we now have Dangote refinery functioning. Why can't the government try to release some crudes into Dangote refinery for onward refinery for domestic consumption, so that it will definitely reduce the problems that the country is facing? Because anything that has to do with petrol, it will definitely affect the socio-economic and even the political fabric of the entire nation, because the political economy of the country revolves around the fuel economy. Coming to the mainstream of either the, instead of the grains to be distributed, you know, our state is one of the states that are on emergency for long. We are having the greatest humanitarian disaster for the last 13 years. And I'm happy my sister, Dr. Mariam Uwais, was with you. She was in Maiduguri. We were together. I took her around many areas when she was registering for the social security database. And she checked on most of the sangayas. We took her to rehabilitation center, to other sangayas, and still we are anticipating for her responses. The state, as I already said, based on my introduction with Mariam, my sister, you know, the governor, before him, even the previous regime led by the president, the deputy president or vice president, His Excellency Senator Kashim Shettima, we already have a well-developed data because of the displacement. If you can remember, only more than 70% of the local governments were already displaced. They were camped in an internally displaced camp as well as in host communities. And the state government, as well as the development partners, have successfully come up with a register to register the most vulnerable IDPs, as well as even those in the host communities. Now on the issues of either it is the palliative based on the distribution of the grain or palliatives based on economic support, the banks and the development partners are already having a data, and that data was used as a means of cushioning the effects of the particular fuel withdrawal, subsidy withdrawal. But at the same time, before we even came to that, we had difficulty in Borno State, One, gross reduction in agricultural import as well as successful relocation of some local governments have led to a resurgence of agricultural productivity, particularly in the local governments that were already resettled. And these people have substantially produced very huge and surplus agricultural production, except for the areas that were inundated by the floods. We are grateful to God Almighty. We are grateful for the efforts of the state government as well as of the federal government to that. And this year again, the palliatives infused by the withdrawal of subsidy from the petroleum products now led to the supply to the states, the trucks of grains, particularly rice, by the central government. I'm happy His Excellency now gave us an insight to what really transpired between them and the federal government in terms of whatever money that will be given to the states. The 5 billion naira that were equitably distributed, I think, to be fair and to be sincere, we already have humanitarian crisis in Borno State. 5 billion is not adequate to Borno State. One, we are having huge number of these repentant Boko Harams coming out from the jungle, and they were sheltered by both the federal and the state government. These people are catered for, not only in terms of grain supply, but at the same time in terms of cash support for them to keep on with their families. Two, those displaced persons in respective communities. Sometimes some of the development partners tend to withdraw the support, federal government tend to withdraw the support. It is only the state government that is struggling to keep them up. And then three, even the people that were resettled in their respective communities, they need to eat something before they go back to farmland in order to engage in agricultural product. And where this circumstance is not there, they will not even be energized properly to restore back to that. At the same time, the government is also struggling to ensure that these people really get the adequacy of what they...
Sorry, Professor Ibrahim Omara, thank you for the points that you have raised. We just want to take a short break. When we come back, we'll continue with our conversation.
The job of making Nigeria great is my ambition, is my dream. To renew the hope of Nigerians, to really bring about changes that will promote unity, equity, stability, and prosperity for this country. It's not a one-man's job. It's a job of all of us.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
Hey, welcome to the Star Times 35th anniversary celebration. To say thank you to every Star Times family for being an integral part of our journey, Star Times has decided to give you a price slash on decoders. Yes, we are slashing the price of our antenna decoder from 8,900 naira to 7,500 naira and the dish decoder from 13,300 naira to 9,900 naira. But that's not all. Existing subscribers can recharge for 2 months on their current bouquet and get upgraded to the next higher bouquet. And if you recharge on the classic or super bouquet, you'll receive a fantastic reward of extra 15 days of free viewing. You can enjoy our top local and international content. So, what are you waiting for? Quickly, visit any Star Times outlet around you to recharge or buy your decoder between June 12th to August 31st to enjoy this fabulous offer. Wow! Yay! Let the celebration begin! Star Times, entertain your family.
Nigeria means unity.
Nigeria means freedom to me.
Nigeria means greatness to me.
Nigeria is indivisible. There is nothing you can do. We all have to savage it together and learn to love each other. We are indivisible.
As a mother and a leader, I will always preach for peace and unity in this country, because that is the only thing that will give us progress.
Though tribes and tongues may differ, in brotherhood we stand, and it is the woman that does that.
Welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria. We are live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Let's return to the governor of Nasarawa State, Engineer Abdullahi Sule, who is still with us via Zoom from Lafia. That's the capital of his state. Now, Governor Sule, we know that palliatives are a stopgap measure ordinarily. And some persons would argue, even without the palliatives, people are trying to just get by. But they would need, of course, to be fortified going forward. And my question, therefore, is, after palliatives, in your view, what next?
Yeah, thank you very much. Actually, that's why I was mentioning to you earlier that the issue of palliatives, is not sustainable. It's just something that you give to somebody today, even if you give them 10 bags or 50 kg bags, after a while, it's gone. So what next? And that's the reason why I said we are looking at issues that are more sustainable. And I took one at a time. For instance, the social program we started, we were given like only 5,000 naira to some of these vulnerable. To so many people, 5,000 means nothing. But believe me, to some of those people that we have targeted, they have been able to do a lot. Somebody will say, I used to buy fish of just 1,500 as my capital. Today, I have 20,000 naira as my capital and things like that. So you have a lot of issues like that. So we'll increase the amount from 5 to 10,000. Two, the number of people who were given for every local government, we'll double it, or maybe even triple it, depending on the cash availability that we have. Two, I was mentioning to you, as far as the workers are concerned, yes, we can give them maybe 10,000 naira for the next 6 months. Then after 6 months, what next? So we say, all right, we'll approach it, because we also had a committee chaired by the deputy governor that came up with so many suggestions, on these palliatives. So we say, instead of that, we had already done promotion of workers. We came in 2019, I met workers who were not promoted for over 10 years. We promoted all of them. That were necessary. We are not even following merit, just general promotion. Everybody was promoted, and then we go with merit now from here. So we say we'll go ahead and carry out another set of promotion, and we'll also carry out some level, of the increment from the minimum wage. Because when we paid the minimum wage, we didn't pay the incremental, to the others. What we did was to say that nobody will earn less than 30,000 naira. Just like they mentioned. And whatever we are doing, we are also looking at the local government levels, because the local government gets its funding directly. Whatever we do, can the local government also be able to do that based on their resources that they are receiving? So that it is not only the state government workers that are enjoying and the local government workers are not enjoying. So it's one of the things that we do. So we look and measure and see what we do. But more importantly, the area that we have looked forward more is the area of agriculture, because Nasarawa State is a state of agriculture and now mining. So we say, how do we support the people? So we give them more fertilizer at lower amount that we have paid. So if it is being sold for 18,000 naira per bag, in the market, as part of the palliatives, we'll give them for less than half the price. So it will also, so we'll buy it at 18,000 naira and then we'll give it to them as less than 9,000 naira. So these are the kinds of things that we will do that we believe are more sustainable, than that. And let me now pose a question to you for you to understand. In this country, we say we were consuming somewhere around 65,000 65 million liters a day. And the palliatives, based on the reduction, of the amount that government was spending, had come down drastically. So now we have said the consumption has come down also drastically. So is government now going to also see that sustainable? I don't know if you understand my question. If we say we were paying 400 billion, today, it will be 200 billion. So will the government continue to give these palliatives based on that? Okay, those are the kinds of questions that you'll do. And that's the reason why I think we look at it the way you have mentioned, do something that is sustainable, whether it is small or big, depending on the cash flow of a state. It has to be sustainable. Otherwise, you can't promote people today, and when there is no money coming tomorrow, you tell them, oh, we are going to demote you, by the way, because there is no money coming. There are going to be trouble in that state. So those are the kinds of things that we are looking at. Thank you very much.
Okay, just before Kingsley comes with his next question, I was just sharing with Kingsley. Maybe we could share from the experience of His Excellency the modalities for distributing the palliatives, because if you look at the capture of those that fall within the category of vulnerable, they are of course those in need of special care, those without protection, maybe as a result of a disability and all that. And like Mrs. Weiss has said, the social register that has been in existence was aptly domiciled within the states. I don't know what templates His Excellency and the committee members used in distributing the palliatives. Could you share with us, please?
Well, as far as we are concerned, and I think the Vice President has said this more than once at our meetings, that we truly say we are relying on that social register, or has it been tampered with? Have other people been either favored as a result of political patronages or other things? Can we say we rely on that? Now, I remember the answers we gave. If where you don't have anything else, you have to be able to rely on something, and then you can find a way, to add to it. And I for Nasarawa, that's what we are doing. Once we see somebody who is not supposed to be on that register, we don't even say anything. We just jump that person and go to someone else that we have seen physically that it is. Can I say our system is perfect? The ones that I'm watching and I'm supervising, I can say to a certain extent, yes. But the ones that I can't see, because I can't be everywhere, and our people are our people. They can always do certain things where you are not seeing, so, and I think those are the kinds of situations that we are having. So the ones, for instance, in Latvia, the moment I see the name of someone, that is not supposed to be there, automatically, once I see the name of someone who is supposed to be there, we take it out, But where I'm not able to, I don't know the people, it's very difficult, to be able to do that. But I'm able to check that, because we do have our focal person for humanitarian who keeps in touch with the ministry in Abuja, and he's able to bring those things to us. But it is a very difficult one, like you have mentioned, to manage, because not everybody is honest enough to say that some other people will bring their friends, some other people will do so just to benefit, and it's unfortunate, but it's an unfortunate thing we have to live with.
Governor Sule, I still want to stay with you very quickly so that at least we have the benefit of your contribution. The substance of my earlier question actually related to the fact that, look, palliatives are a stopgap measure. And to the extent that subsidy is gone for good, it means that incrementally we'll continue to make savings. And when local refineries also get into operation, including Dangote in Lagos, which is not producing just yet, perhaps also, we can reduce the cost of refined petroleum products. That's one leg of it. But the second leg has to do with what exactly would we have in mind? Because it appears, sometimes the way we function in our country, that once there's attention on palliatives, it will be palliatives mostly for all times. Again, this is just funding consumption. So how do we get into capital investments that will yield long-term results? So we talk rural roads, for instance, better equipment for rural farmers, whatever they are, the earth-moving machines, so that by the time we have the aggregate of all these primary healthcare centers that are functioning, and so on and so on, scholarships for bright students, bursaries for students, and all that, the well-being of the citizens get to be enhanced rather than just focusing on consumption and consumption.
Thank you very much. Actually, that's the point. You know, the point about sustainability is what it is, and I'm happy you brought out one of the areas, and that is the area of the petroleum products. You know, because the area of petroleum products, that's what I was mentioning, that our consumption used to be 65 million, according to what we were told. You know, and now, even from the NMPC, not too many people are able to buy because of the high price. So consumption has dropped by almost 40 or 50%, which means if the government said we were subsidizing 400 billion, today, are we going to be saying 400 billion again? It's going to be 200 billion. So that part is not sustainable. So now on the issue of the price, why is the price so high? So many reasons. One, we are importing 100%. Two, we have so many inefficiencies at the port, foreign exchange, this and that are all there. You know, that's why the price is very, very high.
We do apologize for that disconnection with His Excellency Governor Abdullahi Sule. I'm not sure that he's back. Okay, so while we wait for connection to get back, let me bring in Mr. Rafiu Ajakaye, that's the Chief Press Secretary to the Governor of Kwara State, into our conversation. And you may have responded to this issue somewhere, but in some of the papers, it was written that some residents in some ward areas had complained of the quantity or the bags of rice given to their areas and the quantity received. In one of those areas, Adewale Ward, I'm sure you know that. There's also, I'm told, Sarumi Ojuekun Ward. I hear that ward was given just 4 bags, out of which 6 cups of rice, you know, went to each person. Please, could you speak to us on the modalities also, how, you know, the palliatives were distributed?
Thank you very much for that very interesting question, really. What I have said over time is that it is not possible for the government of a state to distribute rice in tin can or whatever that anybody may have mentioned. The idea of the state government is to earn these palliatives to community people. Now, in a particular community, you have imam, you have pastors, you have community-based organizations who have their leadership, you have several organizations there. Now, the truth of the matter is that for an imam, he understands or he knows those people in his congregation who are well off. And he also understands, he knows very well those within his congregation who are struggling to get by. The idea of the government involving them is for them to identify those people who are truly in need of this. And when that is done, what the government does, like I mentioned earlier on, is 10 kg bag of rice. Now, if you give a 10 kg bag of rice to an individual, that is where the duty of the government ends. When the government hands over this to a particular individual, you know the way our people are, and then you begin to share what has been given to you. I don't think it would be fair to begin to blame that on the government. That is what has happened in several instances. Another thing is politics, which I do not want to go into. But like I said, with the 5 billion naira, the 4 billion naira rice that the government is about to begin now, a committee has been set up comprising community leaders, people who are well respected, for them to interface with different bodies, labor unions, marketers, community-based organizations. Let them come up with credible lists of people who should benefit. Now, when these people are given the rights, the government gives them to do with whatever they want to do with it. But the government will never give something ridiculous to any individual or any community.
Ajakaye, thank you very much for the comments that you have made. But I'm sure you heard Mrs. Miriam Owais explain, for instance, how the social registers were developed over time, and the expectation would be that there will be periodic update of those registers, and the registers become readily available at times like this, rather than seeking to get new henchmen to come up with fresh names or design their own register. But thanks a lot for what you have said. Let's go over to Declan Emelumba in Owerri with us via Zoom. Declan, sorry, we lost you earlier on when you were trying to explain what's happening in Owerri and therefore ultimately, of course, in Imo State. Are the needs of Imo residents likely to be met with the palliatives? And if not, what else is on the cards by the state government?
Yeah, if I get you right, you said the list of the Imo people who would benefit from the palliatives. I hope that's what the question is asked.
Sorry, Mr. Emelumba, I didn't say the list of Imo people. Well, you can respond to that, but I was talking about the needs. The needs. Is it rice that Imo people need, or they need other things?
Okay. Well, apart from rice, which we are already distributing, His Excellency has already taken a very proactive measure in ensuring that there is in place an enduring policies that will truly alleviate the suffering accruing from the removal of oil subsidy. For instance, the government has established a marketing board, and this marketing board, the duty is to buy commodities, not just rice, so many commodities, grains, condiments for cooking. And then civil servants, workers can buy, the government will help to reduce the price, so workers can buy at the reduced price, and even have credit facilities they can pay at the end of the month. And other people from Imo State can also queue in and buy from this marketing boards, which will be located in all the local government areas, the 27 local government areas. In addition to this, the government has also rolled out free transportation for civil servants, and is also trying to beef up the transportation generally within the urban and intercity areas. The government has also increased the minimum wage to 40,000 minimum, so that no worker in Imo State will earn anything less than 40,000. In addition, there is also a free meal ticket for workers, which is will be converted to money, so that at the end of the month, every worker gets additional not less than 6,000, which allows him to have at least 1 meal a day in the 5 working days. So there are so many things that the government has done to ensure that there's also free medical service for workers. There's also free medical service for local government staff, and then free insurance scheme. So there are so many other things that the government has put in place to alleviate the sufferings of the people based on the problems arising from the removal of oil subsidy.
Mr. Declan, thank you. Thank you for telling us, the things that the state government, had done to alleviate the, sufferings of the vulnerable in Imo State. But just a quick one also. Are you likely consider, since you're also considering and you're not going by any existing template or register, are you likely to give a special consideration for widows and people of special needs, especially in some local government areas like the Ahiazos and Mbise area, which has a large concentration of your population? Are you also going to give special consideration to people in those areas?
Yeah, definitely. We are giving very special consideration to the vulnerable group. We are giving consideration to orphanages, widows, people with disability. We have a social register. To that social register, which, like we have observed, should be regularly updated. We also using the Ministry of Women Affairs and Vulnerable Groups that has updates of these groups to distribute and make sure that it gets to them, and that the real people, the real vulnerable people and disabled people are also part of the palliative measures that we are getting to go around.
All right. Sorry, I was just trying to share with Mrs. Uwais here. Declan, thank you. But let's take a quick one from Professor Ibrahim Umara. And I'm just wondering how can we ensure equitable and transparent distribution of these palliatives, such that there'll be no political interference or underhand dealing?
Respective states have already set up, in relation to particularly Borno, they set up a high-level committee that is liaison with the various communities that identify to benefit from the palliative interventions. That is number one. Number two, but remember again that we already have established social security network that are already registered, that have been supported by the government consistently. And then number three, remember that most of these communities, more than 70%, were just resuming, they were just relocated. Accessibility to farmland is the most important, and at the same time, releasing farm implement. The state government had already released farm implement. And then second, the government is focusing on the security of the resettled communities by reinforcing the armed forces and other volunteer forces that will ensure the security. Number four, you even have agro rangers that were already supported by the government. But the established network of those that are supposed to be beneficiaries of the palliatives have been followed. The committee is moving from one ward to another across the local government, particularly in Maiduguri Metropolitan and Jere. As of now, the governor left Maiduguri yesterday to Bama, and then from Bama by now, they said he already slept in Dambua. All these are in relation to distributing the palliatives. But in that palliatives, we have two tranches. One, the short term, and then the second, the long term. The short term is the cushioning of the immediate effect of the scarcity of what people can even consume before going back to the farmland. Two is the most important, which is the long term. The physical aspect of guaranteeing food security is to ensure that, look, people have access to their farmland, they produce whatever they wanted to produce, at the same time they cultivate whatever God Almighty had already endowed them with, and then guarantee.
All right, Professor Mara, sorry we're out of time, as it were, for the conversation today. And very quickly, I would like to get the closing thoughts of Mrs. Miriam Uwais. Very quickly, what do you think should be better done under the circumstance, so that at least ultimately the harsh effects of subsidy removal can be mitigated, and then everyone goes on with their daily activities?
Thank you. I think the situation actually presents an opportunity for the Governors Forum to sit down and agree on how to address these issues long term, because it's good to give the food now, but how do we ensure that the poorer are able to access markets for their products, training, extension services, small grants to support their businesses, implements. There are a lot of things that can be done for the people that are, and the majority of our people are smallholder farmers, and it's very important for us to also have a briefing of what has happened in the past so that we can build on it rather than start afresh every single time.
Thank you, Ma. Let's take a final closing remarks from Engineer Abdullahi Sule. Just in less than 60 seconds, sir, going forward, you just listen to Mrs. Uwais' suggestion.
All right, Claire, it appears that we are unable to immediately get the governor of Nasarawa State, Engineer Abdullahi Sule, but we do appreciate him for being with us on the program today. He was with us via Zoom from Lafia, that's the capital of Nasarawa State. Once again, Governor Sule, we appreciate your participation in our conversation this morning. We also like to thank the Honorable Commissioner for Information in Imo State, Declan Emelumba. We thank Rafiu Ajakaye, Chief Press Secretary to the Kwara State Governor, Professor Ibrahim Umara from Maiduguri, that's Department of Political Science, and here in the studios, we thank Mrs. Miriam Uwais, legal practitioner and former special advisor on social intervention programs. So that's it for us on Good Morning Nigeria today. Thank you for being with us. Tomorrow, join us same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Look after yourselves. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
I'm Claire Adilabu Abdul Razak. Bye-bye.